Accounting for Petroleum Industry. Chapter 1. An Introduction to the Petroleum Industry. Question 1. Define the following concepts. Petroleum. Petroleum refers to crude oil and natural gas, or simply oil and gas. These are mixtures of hydrocarbons, which are molecules in various shapes and sizes of hydrogen and carbon atoms, found in the small connected pore spaces of some underground rock formations. Number 2. An exploratory well. The oil and gas are discovered and produced through wells. Drill down to the reservoirs. An exploratory well is one drilled to discover petroleum reservoirs. The petroleum reservoirs are generally thousands of feet below the surface. Number 3. Development well. Development well is one drilled to produce a portion of previously discovered oil and gas. Number 4. Oil and gas reserves are the estimated volumes of recoverable oil and gas within the petroleum reservoir. Number 5. Large producing reservoir. The large producing reservoir is the reservoir which has one or more exploratory wells and several producing development wells. The second question. What are the useful products that we get from petroleum? Number 1. Transportation fuels, such as gasoline, diesel gas. Number 2. Heating fuels, such as liquefied petroleum gas, natural gas burned to heat buildings. Number 3. Sources of electricity. Number 4. Petrochemicals, from which plastics, as well as some clothing, building materials, and other diverse products are made. Question number 3. Mention the major 4 segments in the oil and gas or petroleum industry. Exploration and production, or E&P, by which petroleum companies explore for underground reservoirs of oil and gas and produce the discovered oil and gas using drilled wells, through which the reservoirs, oil, gas, and water are brought to the surface and separated. The hydrocarbon processing, by which crude oil refineries and gas processing plants separate and process the hydrocarbon and gases into various marketable products. The refined products may be processed further into petrochemical plants for making petrochemicals. Number 3. Transportation, distribution, and storage, by which petroleum is moved from producing well areas to the crude oil refineries and gas processing plants. The crude oil is moved by pipeline or tanker, and natural gas is moved by pipeline. The refined products and natural gas are similarly transported by various means to retail distribution points, such as gasoline stations, or retail or marketing, which ultimately markets in various ways the refined products, natural gas liquids, and natural gas to various consumers. Here you should know that the E&P segment is sometimes called upstream operations, and the other 3 segments are called downstream operations. Companies having both upstream and downstream operations are vertically integrated in the petroleum industry, and hence are called integrated. Other companies involved in upstream only are referred to as independents. The several largest integrated petroleum companies are called majors. The next question. What are the stages of petroleum exploration and production? First, preliminary exploration. Before an oil company drills for oil, it must first evaluate where oil and gas reservoirs might be economically discovered and developed. Second, leasing the rights to find and produce. When suitable prospects are identified, the oil company determines who owns rights to any oil and gas in the prospective areas. In the United States, whoever owns land usually owns both the surface rights and the mineral rights to. U.S. landowners may be individuals, corporations, partnerships, and of course governments. A landowner may sell the surface rights and then separately sell the mineral rights. Whoever owns the mineral rights negotiates a lease with the oil company for the rights to explore, develop, and produce the oil and gas. The lease requires the lessee, which is the oil company and not the lessor, to pay all exploration, development, and production costs, and gives the oil company ownership in a negotiated percentage, often 75% to 90% of production. The lessor owns the remaining portion of production. The oil company may choose to form a joint venture with other oil and gas companies to co-own the lease and jointly explore and develop the property. Third, the leased property. To find underground petroleum reservoirs requires drilling exploratory wells. Exploration is risky. 2/3 of U.S. exploration wells for 1998 were abandoned as dry holes, which are not commercially productive. Consequently, 80 to 90% of these wells are dry holes. Several dry holes might be drilled on a large lease before an economically producible reservoir is found. To drill a well, a U.S. oil company typically subcontracts much of the work to a drilling company that owns and operates rigs for drilling. Fourth, evaluating and completing a well. After a well is drilled to its targeted depth, sophisticated measuring tools are lowered into the hole to help determine the nature, depth, and productive potential of the rock formations encountered. If these recorded measurements, known as well logs, along with recovered rock pieces, indicate the presence of sufficient oil and gas reserves, then the oil company will elect to spend substantial sums to complete the well for safely producing the. Fifth, developing the property. After the reservoir or field of reservoirs is found, additional wells may be drilled and surface equipment installed to enable the field to be efficiently and economically produced. Number 6, producing the property. Oil and gas are produced, separated at the surface, and sold. Any accompanying water production is usually pumped back into the reservoir. Production life varies widely by reservoir. Some U.S. oil and gas reservoirs have produced over 50 years, some for only a few years, and some for only a few days. The rate of production typically declines with time because of the reduction in reservoir pressure from reducing the volume of fluids and gas in the reservoir. Production costs are largely fixed costs independent of the production rate. Eventually, a well's production rate declines to a level at which revenues will no longer cover production costs. Petroleum engineers refer to that level or time as the well's economy. Number 7. Abandoning the financial property. When a well reaches its economic limit, the well is plugged. The hole is sealed off at and below the surface, and the surface equipment is removed. Some well and surface equipment can be salvaged for use elsewhere. Plugging and abandonment costs, or P&A costs, are commonly referred to as dismantlement, restoration, and abandonment costs. D&A costs. Equipment salvage values may offset the plugging and abandonment costs of onshore wells, so that net DR are zero. Chapter 4. Accounting Principles for Oil and Gas Producers. Question 1. U.S. companies follow one of two methods of financial accounting for petroleum E&P activities. Explain. The two methods are successful efforts, and the successful efforts method has only the costs of successful efforts capitalized as oil and gas properties, costs of exploratory dry holes, geological and geophysical G&G costs in general, delay rentals, and other property carrying costs are expensive. Under the full cost method, all property acquisition, exploration, and development costs, even dry hole costs, are capitalized as oil and gas properties. These costs represent fixed assets, amortized on a country-by-country basis, using a unit of production. Present between the successful efforts and full cost will be as follows. In the successful efforts, the acquisition costs, exploratory well, successful, developmental, dry hole, developmental well, successful, are capitalized, while G&G costs, exploratory dry hole, and production costs are expensive. While in full cost method, the acquisition costs, G&G costs, exploratory dry hole, exploratory well, successful, developmental dry hole, developmental well, successful, are all capitalized, while only production costs are expensive. Question 2. State the different types of costs. Number 1. Acquisition costs. The acquisition costs incurred in acquiring the rights to drill for oil and gas. Exploration costs. The exploration costs are costs incurred in exploring the property, including drilling. Development costs. The development costs are costs incurred to obtain access to proven reserves and to provide facilities for extracting, treating, gathering, and storing oil and gas. Number 4, and the last type, is the production costs. The production costs are costs incurred in lifting the oil and gas to the surface and in gathering, treating, and also storing the oil and gas.